The PS2 was kind of a glorious time for RPGs. FF10 and 10-2, Dark Cloud 1 and 2, the Xenosaga Trilogy, SMT Nocturne, Digital Devil Saga 1 and 2, Raido 1 and 2, congrats to us for the remaster, and oh hey, how did this get here? Among these games is Tales of Abyss, one of the games in that era that was held in very high regard. The Tales of series is one of those franchises that existed since the SNES era, starting with Fantasia, then Destiny, Eternia, Legendia, Symphonia, Rebirth, which sadly didn't leave Japan, and this game. Now, I did make a video about Tales of Arise quite a while ago, and I did complete that game. Until Bamco made the DLC and made more achievements and ruined it! How was the DLC, by the way? Did not hear much good things about it. Tell me in the comments below. Anyway, Tales of Abyss's story deals with so many themes. Love, friendship, identity, familial bonds, responsibility, beliefs. It sounds very cliche coming from a dude who made a channel about all the things that he cries about online. But it is a legitimately great story. And with the recent release of the Tales of Graces remaster, which I am already enjoying, I have high hopes that this too will get remastered, if not already. I have been making this video for a year. The game's protagonist, Luke, goes through, well, spoiler for the whole video, one of the most well-written journeys of redemption and self-discovery you can experience in a video game. Now, obviously, spoilers for the lot of Tales of Abyss during the video. I do prefer that you've already played Tales of Abyss or is familiar with the game before watching this so we can have a discussion about this character arc. Now, without further ado, we start with the words of Yulia, with words of prophecy and the woman stepping into a light. Then wonderful, glorious Motoi Sakuraba music plays to introduce our main character. Luke's story starts in the kingdom of Kimlaska on a manor owned by Duke Fabra, his father. Luke is summoned to the drawing room and is told that his swordmaster, Van Grants, won't be able to teach him for a while because he is leaving for a mission to look for Phone Master Ion. Phone Master is basically this world's pope, and Van is basically leader of the Phone Master's Guard. Which such an important person missing, this is why he himself has to lead the search personally. This is where a few behaviors from Luke will be displayed. He's selfish to an almost childish degree. Luckily, his father chastises him for showing such behavior, even though his mother confides with Luke due to his kidnapping 7 years before the present day. In an ingenious way to start a game's tutorial, Van meets Luke in the manor's courtyard to give him his last session for a long while. The tutorial goes as normal: attack button, defend, using arts, the basics of the basics. Luke actually voices his impatience with the lesson, and the tutorial is ended abruptly by a mysterious song, a spell that's meant to send people to sleep. Van identifies the attacker as Tyr. Affected by the song's effects, Luke moves in to defend Van, but a phenomenon called a hyperresonance occurs, and this transports Tyr and Luke into a beautiful valley at night. They are transported to a place called Tataru Valley. To Luke's surprise, he's now in a brand new place, outside of his home, something he's been forbidden in doing for 7 years since his kidnapping. After an argument over the events at the manor, Tyr promises Luke to get him back to his home in Batikal, the capital of Kimlaska.
That was too easy. Nobody can beat us.
Don't blame me if your excitement leads to pain.
At the valley's exit, we find the coachman who confuses us for Bandage, which opens up a funny zinger from Tyr.
Don't go comparing me to some pathetic bandit.
Yes, you might upset the bandits.
But unfortunately, to ride this coach, we need an exorbitant amount of money, and Tyr is forced to give a pendant to the coachman. Luke says something incredibly stupid, and they board the coach. After an incident with a military landship chasing bandits, Luke and Tyr learn from the coachman that they've been transported into the wrong country. They are currently in Malkuth, the country Luke's relatives are in danger of going into war with. After this conversation, you are given a choice to either ride the coach or walk to the nearest town. Luke displays some amount of dickishness again. The difference between the choices is if we do choose to walk, we are given a cooking tutorial, and if you choose to just use the coach all the way, you are just transported into the next village. No problem. Due to the unforeseen complication of being in enemy territory, they stop in a village called Engave and plan their next move. Just to be fully transparent, I played this on an emulator because the third-party price of this is ridiculous, and the widescreen patches on the PS2 emulator reveal some interesting details. While exploring Engave, Luke takes an apple from a vendor without, well, paying for it. He gets scolded by Tyr and the vendor, and Tyr makes a very interesting observation. This gets Luke into trouble, obviously, and when they reach the inn, a congregation of Engave's farmers are complaining about recent events of food theft. The fruit merchant points out Luke, and he's carried like a freaking small animal to the mayor's house. And this is where we meet our personal Satan, voiced by Kirk Thornton in English and... Wait a second. Takehito Kuyasu? Holy shit, Dio Brando himself! Don't worry, I do enjoy both performances because I am using a patch that adds voice acting to the skits, so I get to enjoy both. Amongst the arguments, Tyr explains that they were supposed to head to another town called Casidonia, but boarded the wrong coach. Jade explains that his unit, well, the land ship that chased away the Darkwings being the bandits that were in suspicion of stealing food. Also, trust me, they're also going to be very important later on in the story. This explanation clears Luke of any suspicion from being the food thief, and then Phone Master Ion presents evidence that creatures named Cheagles may be the ones taking food from Engave. Wait, wasn't he missing? Which is what Luke asks to a Phone Master Guardian they encounter in the inn. The game doesn't tell you who she is yet, but her name is Anis, and she is one of the best characters in the game. Luke, still irritated by being called a thief, decides to head to the Chiggle Woods and investigate the food raids. Side note here, we need to talk about an important skit. This skit is about Luke's diary and why he needs to write in it every day. The reason being in case he loses his memory again. That's right, when he was abducted and once recovered, he lost his memory. Amnesia, normally in video games, is used for blank slate POV characters so you can easily slide into the role. It's not a bad practice by any means, but this game does use Luke's memory loss as an important part of the game's first quarter. With a short walk around the world map, we reach the Chiggle Woods and find Ion, fighting some wolves and nuking them with a phonic art. Phonic arts are the magic system of this game. He tuckers himself out because of the art. By the way, you can actually use that skill in combat, given you've learned the correct skills. After some introductions and the revelation that Tyr is actually Van's sister, who tried to assassinate him, Luke agrees to accompany Ion to the Chiggle's nest, showing that aside from being abrasively snobbish, he's got a bit of a good side on him. They chase a Chiggle, oh what a squeaky noise it makes, down the woods and find their dwelling in a giant hollow tree. The Chiggle Elder reveals that the reason they're stealing food from the village is due to the Ligers that moved in due to their original home being burned down. Now, as an intermediary to possibly communicate and make a compromise with the Ligers, the Elder tasks the Chiggle that accidentally burned down the Ligers' original home to accompany you. He's named Mew, and unfortunately, Luke treats him very, very poorly in this early point of the game. Upon reaching the Liger's den and facing the Mother Liger, Ion attempts to negotiate with the Mother Liger, but she's not in a negotiating mood after the burning of her home, and oh, she just laid eggs. And these Liger cubs are more prone to hunting down flesh, meaning if they don't kill her and destroy her eggs, The Cheagles and Engave are doomed. The Mother Liger then roars and it causes some rubble to fall on Mew. And yes, it did fall on Mew, not Ion. But Luke deflects and he says he's protecting Ion. I think at this point, I feel it's very important to point out these moments. Luke is even apprehensive of the idea that they need to kill the Liger Queen and her eggs. Also, yes, this game uses kill, not defeat. Tales of Abyss is not afraid of straight up telling you what they do. It's even more of an exception when they tell you that they need to knock down people. The Liger Queen fight is pretty tough. Not helped that I started my game in hard mode. She has some dangerous attacks, including a stomp attack that makes you stagger upwards, a thunder beam that will kill you if you do not guard, and occasionally a thunder wave attack that will hit tier if you're unlucky. This is where I needed to swallow my pride and accept that I'm out of touch and need to put back time in the game to get a hold of the combat again. I grinded a bit and reduced the difficulty. So I tried the fight again and luckily...
Hey, what the hell? It's not dying!
This isn't good. Our attacks aren't hurting it at all.
So do something!
Allow me.
Who are you?
Leave the inquiry for later. I'll use phonic arts to take care of this. You make sure I have time to cat.
You can't order me.
Let's leave this to him. We'll buy time by taking on the Liger Queen.
I know,
is able to take the Queen's HP to half, in the middle of the fight, we're joined with a level 45 Jade who can decimate the Mother Liger with ease.
Well, that was pitiful.
Whoa! Did you see that?
He's definitely not an ordinary phonist.
After the fight, Luke expresses his distaste on killing the Liger, and Tyr comments on how soft he is. Jade ships them for some reason, and asks Anis to do something for him. Upon your return to the Cheagle's home, Mew is exiled, tasked to serve under Luke for a year of punishment for his burning of the Liger's original home. Back at the forest entrance, Malkuth's soldiers along with Anis and Jade's landship, the Tartars, await you. Jade then arrests Luke and Tyr, placing them under his charge. It is then revealed to Luke and us the player that a big war is in danger of breaking out, and Jade is asking Luke as the Duke's son for assistance. You're given time to explore the ship and Anis gives you a tour. She's very pushy. Don't worry, none of the adult characters actually treat her flirting seriously, thank God. This tour gives you perspectives from Ion and Jade, and even a neat interaction with a Malkuth recruit. After roaming around the ship, Jade explains that a few recent conflicts are in danger of causing a full-scale war, and Ion was asked by Malkuth's emperor to go to Kimlaska and deliver a message proposing a new peace treaty. Ion went missing because parts of this game's main religion, the Order of Lorelei, are pushing for this war, and they won't allow Ion to negotiate for peace. As for the reason they won't allow Ion to negotiate for peace, we'll get to that in a while. Because of the disputes between the two countries, Jade needs an intermediary to join them, go through parts of Kimlaska, and deliver the Emperor's message. Luke says some dumb shit about bowing down for help, and Jade, God bless him, counters with sincerity and a lot of sarcasm, bowing to Luke and requesting his aid. Luke agrees and is defeated by Jade's overwhelming sass. Unfortunately, the journey to deliver the Emperor's message is not gonna be smooth as they're attacked by the Oracle Knights, the Order of Lorelei's military. Among the soldiers are the God Generals, the leaders and the strongest of the Oracle Knights. Why the church needs a military, I do not know. A God General called Largo fights against Jade. And here we learn of Jade's title of Necromancer, rumored of taking corpses in the battlefield. He's then nerfed by something called a phone slot seal, solidifying his place in your party. Jade orders Mew to breathe fire on a phone stone in the ceiling, causing a flash, and tasks Anis to take Ion and run. The flash allows Jade to stab Largo, and Luke is shocked to see this. A plan is made to retake control of the Tartarus. But because it's overrun by Oracle Knights and monsters, we can't enter the bridge directly. If you're wondering why the Oracle Knights have monsters on their side, one of the God Generals can communicate with monsters. You'll meet her later. Don't worry about it. Anyway, we make our way to enter the bridge from above. Tyr puts the guards to sleep. The plan initially goes very smoothly and Luke is left to guard the bridge's entrance. But due to his carelessness...
Ah! Ah! Don't come any closer!
I love how the game handles Luke's reaction to his first kill. He's visibly shaken and shocked by this, and he'll be forced to fight even more because if he doesn't, he'll die. The reality of where he is dawns on him. It's very abrupt and very sudden. He didn't even have any time to process. But as Tyr explains to him, this is how their world works. Monsters or bandits attack villagers, soldiers go to war. Their world is in a terribly harsh situation in where you have to take up arms to survive. Jade is perplexed with Luke's lack of worldly knowledge, surprised at his utter ignorance. Tyr informs Jade of Luke's isolation after his abduction and the memory loss the incident caused him. This is what Luke's first arc of the story is about, showing how much of an incredibly flawed person he is, while showing him being friendly to their gardener, merciful to baby animals, being able to show concern for others. He just has a terrible way of showing and expressing his feelings.
Oh, thank you so much.
No, I'm not. Now quit saying...
Okay.
Luke still insists that he'll fight, and Jade triggers a command in the Tartars, causing it to stall. We reach the emergency entrance of the ship, and the fight breaks out. One of the god generals, Legreta, recognizes Tyr, and the party is forced to a standoff. Until suddenly, Jesus Christ, that entrance is kind of ridiculous. Someone drops in to knock down Legreta, grab Ion, and salvage the situation. This is Guy. He was introduced in Luke's manor earlier in the game. He's Luke's best friend, and this story will only help in endearing you to Guy. The amount of things he did in the time he arrived is kind of ridiculous. Jade takes Arietta hostage since she's the one in control of the monsters, and orders them back into the ship. Guy tells them how he ended up in Malkuth, and we are found by Oracle soldiers. Luke is still hesitant to fight, hurt, and possibly kill other people. In a fight with their pursuers, he hesitates in killing an Oracle soldier and causes injury to Tyr. In a campfire, we get a few scenes giving more depth to everyone we are currently with. Luke oddly clues into Tyr acting strong, Ion accepting that his religion, the one he represents, no longer share his beliefs. Jade tells Luke that his reaction and aversion to killing is normal in a very harsh and kind of insulting tone. And Guy...
It must have been tough for you, suddenly thrown out into the world like this.
I had no idea things were this bad outside of the city.
Sometimes you can earn bounties for killing monsters and bandits. Outside the towns, killing people isn't considered a crime, as long as it's not proven to be for personal malice.
How many people have you killed?
Who knows? Less than that soldier right there, I imagine.
Aren't you scared?
Of course I'm scared. That's why I fight. Because I don't want to die. I still have things to do.
This clues us into the life Guy had lived before. This is why I fight. Because I don't want to die. A very simple, flat answer to the harsh reality they're in. It's the morning after, and Jade creates a formation that allows Luke to be protected and keeps him from trouble. This also keeps him from fighting. Luke protests, proclaiming he's not afraid to kill, and is then told what killing a person means.
If I have to fight to survive, then that's what I'll do. I'm not gonna hide in the corner.
To kill someone means to rob them of their future, even if it is to protect yourself.
And it can earn you the hatred of others.
Are you prepared to deal? Can you face that responsibility without running away? Without making excuses?
You said yourself, you aren't killing people because you want to. I've made up my mind.
But
I don't see any problem with that. We'll give Luke a chance to show us his resolve.
Just don't push yourself too hard, Luke.
We reach St. Bina and it's crawling with Oracle soldiers. Lucky enough, the mayor of Engave, Rose, arrives with her wagon. She agrees to take us into the village and she mentions something about these events not being in her birthday score. The score is something that we're going to be very, very involved with. But that's for later. With the help of Rose, we've entered St. Bina successfully and talked to the people in charge, the McGoverns. They gave us a letter from Anis telling that she's moved on to a place called Kaitsur. After confirming Anis's movement, we prepare to leave town. Luckily, the God Generals are preparing to leave town as well. And funny enough, this is where the game actually introduces us to the rest of the God Generals. Largo, the Black Lion, who's alive, great. Lagreta, she is Tyr's mentor and has the most ridiculous name in the game. This, who knows Jade for some reason. Sink, who seems to be in charge. And Arietta, who's related to the Liger Queen and is very angry at us because, we kind of killed it. One of them, however, is absent, Ash the Bloody, who was introduced earlier in the Tartarus. Jade has an odd reaction to seeing him then. At Ion's suggestion, the party rests at the inn. Jade asks Ion where he was taken to, and we're informed that he's been taken to a Sephiroth. No, not that one. Basically, Sephiroths are part of the planet where energy gathers. Luke asks about Jade's phone slot seal and is embarrassed when his concern is pointed out. Jade answers frankly and with more sass. Then Jade hints to something. If you're already familiar with the events of the game, it's very surprising to me that Jade already hints at a lot of future events. I won't tell what those events are yet, but he's been hinting that he's already in the know for some reveals that are reserved to some characters for some time. After we rest in the inn, it's off to Fubras River to reach Kaitsur. Sadly, crossing through the Fubras River, Arietta bars us from exiting the river, and we're informed that the Liger Queen we killed was the one who helped raise her after the previous war. We avoid a fight with her after an earthquake opens a geyser of gas called the miasma, a poison from underground. Unable to move fast enough, Tyr recites a special phonic hymn that conjures a barrier. Jade tries to kill Arietta, but Luke and Ion protest. Arietta is spared, much to Jade's dismay. We reach the border town of Kaitsur, and when you attempt to cross, we meet up with Anis, who's being blocked from crossing by a soldier. After some banter, Luke is attacked by one of the God Generals, the one missing from St. Bina, Ash the Bloody. Due to the surprise, Luke wasn't able to see him, and luckily, Van is there to stop Ash's attack. The party informs Van of the Emperor's letter for a peace treaty, and Van gives us passports so we can get to Kaitsur's port. Unfortunately, when you reach Kaitsur's port, Arietta spirits away the ship's head engineer and very much destroys the ship. Arietta, escaping from Van, informs the party to come to Coral Castle, the former family vacation home, the place where he was found 7 years ago when he was abducted. Exploring Coral Castle, they discover a bizarre machine in where Jade vaguely implies he notices. Guy tries to question Jade about this, but then, after a startled Anis accidentally jumps on Guy,
What?
That was more than just a startled reaction. What's wrong?
I'm sorry. My body just reacted. Sorry about that, Annis. Are you...
Yeah. Did something happen? That didn't look like a mere aversion to female.
I'm sorry, I really don't know. I wasn't like this as a kid. But there's a part of my memory that's completely missing. The cause may lie there.
Your memory is messed.
I don't think it's the same thing. I'm only missing the memory from a single moment.
How do you know it's just one moment?
I know. The only thing that's missing is the memory of when my family died. Enough about me. I want to hear what's on your mind, Colonel.
Just as you'd rather not talk about your past, there are some things I wish not to talk about as well.
One of the characteristics of Guy is his physical aversion to women. No, he doesn't dislike women. In fact, according to him, he's quite fond of them. No, this is a traumatic response. And no, I'm not armchair diagnosing him. This comes from my future knowledge of events in the game, details of which I'll reveal later on. We reach the top of the castle and Luke gets snatched by Arieta's griffon. He's then taken back to the machine where this does something about synchronizing his phone slots. Look, this is something that's too complicated for me to explain, so this is why you just have to play the game. For now, the rest of the party goes back to save Luke. Guy tussles with Sync and is able to take a disc from him. They fight further and Guy knocks off Sync's mask and sees something. Luke is released and we head back to the roof again, where we now fight Arieta. So, this is one of the first fights where you fight three things at once, and they're not the two other monsters are not grunts. They are bosses. So you have to prioritize who you have to attack first. This is where the strategy option of Tales of is very useful. I complained about this in the Arise review, where the strategy function does not work as well. Bizarrely enough, in the older Tales of games, the strategy function is so simple, yet works as well as you thought it would. It's fine. It works. Unlike in Arise, where you can't even make people focus on one thing. Anyway, after defeating Arieta and her monsters, Jade tries to kill her again, but Ion intervenes again. So the Order of Lorelei can try her like a human being. Van arrives very late and asks you if you want to return to the port on Coach. There's actually a side boss I want to try. It's actually located at the entrance of this dungeon, so... Okay, I'm going back for this later in the game. Well, that was stressful. Okay, so there's a detail I haven't mentioned yet. Throughout the game so far, Luke has been hearing voices since his kidnapping. We are not told who this is yet, but it's going to be very important. We roam around the ship and talk to the party. Yeah, we've already boarded the ship. I have to cut a lot of things, and if you really are curious of what those things in between are, just play the game. You can find a way. Hey, maybe a remaster will be released soon. We roam around the ship and talk to the party. Guy asks if he remembers when they first met, and comments that he's completely different. Luke reassures Ion that the peace talks with Luke's uncle will be fine. Annis hits on Luke. Again, it's a character thing. Tyr teaches Luke about 7 phonists and apologizes for not taking his memory loss seriously. It's actually kind of a sweet moment. She runs in embarrassment afterwards. It's really cute. And Jade...
What'd you do if you weren't really you?
Huh? What are you talking about?
Never mind. It was a stupid question. Forget I said anything.
After talking to most of your party and heading to the deck, Luke hears the voice again, takes control, and tries to test his hyperresonance. Van, witnessing this, helps him control it. Van tells Luke that both his father and uncle, the king, knew about his power, and that may have been the reason he was abducted. Van then suggests that this is a form of unfair imprisonment and use his status of successfully bringing a possible peace treaty between countries to free himself from it, claiming that this will make Luke a hero. That's a very Palpatine thing to do, Van. That's kind of suspicious. These whispers Van has been feeding Luke has clearly affected him, even muttering about it landing in Cassidonia. We almost get robbed, and luckily, Tyr single-handedly saved our wallet. Oh, by the way, the robbers were the Darkwings. Now, Jade was also there, and if you're wondering why he didn't do anything...
By the way, Colonel, why did you just stand by and watch as she did that?
Oh no, you got me. It looked like it would be so amusing.
What the? You.
Now we need to see the data from the discs we got from Sync, so we need to ask for help. From Waluigi and Wario's long-lost brother. Yeah, no, look at him. His name is Astor. Anyway, when we hand him the disc, we're given the contents of the disc's data. Then he laughs like this.
Anytime you need something, please, don't hesitate to let me know.
Would you believe if I told you he's not a villain? Because he's not. He's actually just an honest merchant that opened Cassidonia as a neutral zone of trading in the world. With the data in hand, we head for the port, and finally we head to Batikal. But Sync ambushes the party and plants a seal on Guy. They retreat to the ship and manage to get away from Sync, but this pursues and is ordered to get rid of the documents from the disk. Unfortunately, part of the documents were lost in the scuffle against Sync. We're given a crash course in isophones, thank you writers, for the ingenious usage of Luke's memory loss as a bridge to teach players how the science of this world works. We're then attacked by Oracle soldiers, commanded by this.
Master, what do we do? I can't swim!
Shut up and drown.
Luke, this is not the time to be a dick. This needs to be taken care of, so we need to reach the deck to meet him. Damn, that's a laugh. Same dude who voiced Kane Highwind, guys. When you meet him, this gets a hilarious ribbing from Jade, and we get to fight his giant robot. This thing is tough and very resistant to physical attacks. Make sure to have Jade in your party so he can nuke it with spells, and you're a meat shield unless you can use the game's FOF mechanic. When you finally beat him, he takes a dive in the ocean, but Jade ensures the party that he won't die from it. Sure. We finally reach Batikal, and after being welcomed by two of Kim Laska's army's officials, Luke finally sees what the outside of his manor looks like, mentioning that he has no memories of ever being outside. And I really like this one skit that emphasizes those feelings. It happens the first time we enter Batikal. Luke is clearly feeling a bit down, maybe because he can't remember anything, or that he has doubts that he'll ever win his freedom. Guy, being his best friend, suggests to sightsee for a while, and the party agrees. This is one of the advantages I got from using a modded ISO. The voice-acted skits give more depth to these tiny details. Yes, they are missable, and some of them are very minor, but the characterization you get from these skits are phenomenal. It's really unfortunate that the English localization skipped these because the English cast is amazing. From these early interactions, you can see that Luke is very bad at communicating and expressing his feelings. He needs people to bounce off of to be understood. He's not a good person per se right now, but it shows that he has a lot to learn and he has the capability to be better. All he needs is a little push. Luke and the party crashes an audience the king is having with Grand Maestro Mose. Up until now, he's only been mentioned being the one who's pushing for the war. Now, we have a face to associate with it. All in all, Mose is the leader of a faction of the Order of Lorelei, who's, well, loyal to him. They follow an edict that strictly follows the score. Owen, he's also Tyr's boss, and we actually reach him straight up flying to the king, informing that N gave is a military supply base when there weren't even much soldiers stationed in it. The lying sack of shit. Luckily, Luke and the others put a stop to this, and with the help of Ion, we finally delivered the Malkuth Emperor's letter. So, what now? The party decides to visit Luke's manor, and they're met with Luke Fabra and General Cecile. The Duke thanks Guy for bringing Luke back home, and he asks where Van is. He then accusatively asked if Tyr is conspiring with Van. This very much confuses her. Not explaining any further, he heads to the port, and we're left to explore the manor. If you enter the drawing room, which you will, you'll meet Natalia for the first time. She is the princess of Kimlaska, and apparently is engaged to Luke. She mentions something about a childhood promise, but Luke doesn't remember. I love that this game introduces her as a very high-strung and even a sheltered princess. But she really isn't. She's just kind of clueless, and the game does a very good job in showing how much of a great human being she is. Natalia then explains why the Duke is kind of on edge about Van. And it's because he's suspected to be the one behind Luke's disappearance. 7 years ago, Coral Castle, memory loss, that horrible thing. Then Natalia just says this all of a sudden.
Luke, don't tell me you've taken advantage of one of your servant girls.
Lady, that is not okay. Jade explains what likely will happen to Van, and this spurs the party to arrange another meeting with the king. But before all of that, it actually happens the next day. But before all that, Tyr apologizes to Luke's mother, Suzanne, who's a very gentle soul. She tells her to, not try to assassinate Van anymore. Needless to say, Luke is very lucky to have a mother like this. When you head to Luke's room, the party splits up, with Guy reporting to the Duke, Tyr reporting to Mose about her other mission, she tried to assassinate Van on her own, and with Anis, Ion, and Jade leaving as well. Tyr tells Luke to take care of his mother, and Luke reassures her that it's not her fault that his mother fell ill, explaining that his mother had a weak constitution to begin with. The day after, Luke is summoned to the castle and is informed that they have agreed to the peace treaty and to send aid to a city called Akzeriuth that has been bathed by the miasma. Because of Van's arrest, the king proposes that if Luke becomes Kimlaska's goodwill ambassador, he will be set free to aid with Akzeriuth. But besides this, there is also another reason.
Rita, there's actually a reason why you must be the one to fulfill this role.
What?
Look at this phone stone. This is part of Yulia Juez's 6th phone stone, which fell into our nation's territory.
Tyr, read the score that is written on the lower portion of this phone stone.
Yes, Your ND 2000. In Kimlaska shall be born the scion of Lorelei's power. He will be of royal blood with hair of red. He shall be called the light of the sacred flame, and he will lead Kimlaska Landvaldir to new prosperity. ND 2018. The young scion of Lorelei's power shall bring his people to the minor city. There, and the rest is missing.
That's kind of weird. Why is the rest of this prophetic score missing? After the audience, Luke meets Van in his cell in the castle. The prospect of being a hero excites him, his ego in full tilt. Van invites Luke to join him in Dath as an Oracle Knight, telling him the rest of the score.
But going to Akzeriuth won't do. You heard Yulia Juez's score, did you not?
Yeah, it said I'd bring prosperity to Kimlaska and stuff.
The score continues. The youth will turn power to calamity and be as a weapon of Kimlaska. Those in the upper ranks of the Order believe you will bring war to the Rugnica Plains.
He tells Luke that he wants to save him from his fate, so he proposes that he use his hyperresonance to remove the miasma from Akzeriuth. He also confesses to be the one who kidnapped him 7 years ago. Because according to him, Luke underwent painful hyperresonance experiments when he was a kid and wanted to escape to death. Remember this for later. He tells him that he needs Luke. Notice that he didn't actually tell Luke what he needs him for. Okay, I've mentioned it again, so this is a good time to establish something very important to the story. Let's talk about the score. A score in this world is an accurate list of events that will happen within a person's lifetime. Yes, accurate. The one read to everyone in the throne room is part of something called a planet score, or the planet score. It lists the events that will happen in the planet. This is a part of their religion and a very normal part of life in Aldran. That's the name of the planet. And if you can recall what Rose said in Saint Bina, a person has their score for that year read every year. This is called a birthday score. The score is an important part of the daily lives of people here in Aldran, and we'll hear more about how it's been integrated into the lives of its citizens later on. We meet with the rest of the people who's going to Akzeriuth, and we're informed that Moses' people have ships that have been surveying the area. Jade then makes a plan to use a decoy ship that Van decides to board with a unit of soldiers to make it look legitimate. We head to the city's entrance to prepare for our departure, but Anis runs towards us and informs that Ion's been kidnapped by the Darkwings, and we can't leave because Sync is patrolling the entrance. Not having any other option to exit the city, Guy suggests a passage via an old factory. We enter the old factory, unfortunately with no Cameron Mitchell or Frank Stallone in sight. No one's going to understand that reference. Guy explains how the factory is built upon the city walls until Natalia surprises them. Yeah, Natalia was also there when Luke was being palpatined by Van a second time. Natalia uses what she overheard from that conversation to extort her way into the party.
Ionian Sergeant Hans Tatlin, Oracle Knights Phone Master Guard wins!
That's way too long.
The factory itself is very dingy, but is well designed, with puzzles related to using Muse fire to light up oil drums and pushing switches that enables lifts and gondolas. The boss for this dungeon is impressively designed. A monster that looks like a slime initially, but is actually a spider that's been covered in chemicals that's been left in the factory. The boss itself doesn't really have much going on for it. It doesn't have a specific weakness or strength, and its magic defense is 60 points lower than its physical attack, so you'll need Jade again. Just make sure to avoid the spells it casts. Finally, exiting the factory, we encounter the God Generals, who's holding Ion hostage. Luke charges, and we finally see Ash's face. Ash has an uncanny likeness to Luke. Everyone is shocked by this reveal, except for Jade. The God Generals unfortunately get away with Ion. Jade makes Luke decide their next action and reminds him that he's the Kimlaskan ambassador, the leader of the entourage. Luke decides to go by land by harshly lashing out. It's not his best moment. He's clearly still rattled that Ash looks so much like him. En route to Macedonia, the party decides to stop at a desert oasis. The oasis has a giant crystal that forms a lake around it, making it an ideal stop for many adventurers. Luke then experiences a headache being contacted by Ash. He informs us that Ion is in a place called the Zao Ruins. There's not really anything special about Zao Ruins as a dungeon. You do get an ability for Mew that allows him to use a sonic spinball to destroy boulders, but pretty much it's just a run-of-the-mill ruins. Why these ruins are here may be related to why they took Ion to this place. In the depths of the ruins are three of the God Generals, Largo, Sync, and Ash, alongside Ion, whom they're using to open these doors. Ion previously informed us that this was what he was being used for as well when he was taken by the God Generals earlier. These gates are called Sephiroth gates. Sync and Largo fight to have Ion work on opening the door. These two love using arts that knock you away, with Sync going after any casters with horrifically high damage attacks, and Largo being a lumbering tank. I got beat up the first time around, so I needed to do some grinding. Luckily, there's a save point that heals before the fight, so if you needed to do some grinding anyway. We beat Largo in Sync, but not without difficulties, and Ash charges, clashing with Luke performing the same move. Sync stops the fight before Ash says anything else, proposing to let them go in exchange for Ion, and they all agree. Finally reaching Casidonia, Luke gets another headache. This time, caused by Ash manipulating Luke's body to point his sword towards Tyr. His resistance puts a strain on his body and he faints. Jade hints that he has an idea of what's happening but doesn't tell them since A. Luke is unconscious and B. he's not sure yet. It wouldn't really help them at the moment. After a short incident with Guy and the curse slot, we are finally on track for Akzeriuth. The delays of not being able to meet with Van really upsetting Luke. Arriving at Dio Pass, the last place we need to get through before Akzeriuth, it is here that Luke's behavior is in its most insufferable state. Even saying that they wasted time saving Ion. He gets rightfully chastised by everyone, being reminded that this peace treaty would never have happened without Ion in the first place. This arrogant, spoiled behavior present in a lot of scenes previously. The promise of becoming a hero and Van's praise fully getting into his head. This horrible attitude against Ion worsening as we reach the pass's peak, with Ion exhausted but Luke begrudgingly agreeing to rest. Tyr points this out to Luke but he dismisses it completely. He is utterly rotten and it's really hard to watch. At the other end of Dio Pass, we're ambushed by Legreta, another God General and Tyr's mentor. She calls out to Tyr and they get into an argument, with Tyr asking why they took Ion to the Sephiroths.
I'm under orders from Grand Maestro Mose. What about you? Why are you kidnapping Ion and traveling to the Sephiroth?
To win freedom and free will for human beings.
What do you mean?
This world is completely controlled by the score. People read the score for anything they do. The score rules their lives. Don't you think that's wrong?
The score doesn't exist to control people. It's merely a tool to help them follow the correct path.
Perhaps for you, Phone Master, but most people depend on the score. It controls them. The worst cases consult the score to see what they should have for dinner. You are no different.
We don't go that far, but if the score shows the future, then it's best to live as it says.
The score you get read on your birthday is a useful reference.
Yes, and you hear your life score from the moment you're born, so...
In the end, relying on the score makes life easier. Mind you, the scores other than Yulia's are vague and hard to understand.
That's what I'm talking about. This world is mad. Someone has to change it.
She engages a fight against us, and this fight is hard as bones. If you're not able to pile on her, she'll be able to pick down your party members. Her normal pistol attacks hit really fast and hit really hard. It really did not help that I did not have enough items in this fight as well. Also, the game allows her to cast while being hit, so while you're attacking, there's a giant chance that you'll be hit by something really nasty. So, I failed a few times, so off to grinding again. I got through the fight, finally, and afterwards, Legreta calls Luke a reject, with Jade interrupting about forbidden technology. Luke becomes frustrated by being uninformed of the situation, not knowing what Legreta meant, and Jade displays anger for the first time in this game. To be fair, not everyone really knows what Legreta meant at this point. Natalia, Tyr, Guy, and Anis also doesn't know what that means. But Luke goes full Waso,
everybody betrayed me. I fed up with this world.
Complaining that no one is respecting his authority as the Kimlaskan ambassador. Claiming that Van was the only one who acknowledged him. And let's talk about that for a second. Luke was abducted 7 years ago by Van himself. And when he returned home, he never talked and could barely move on his own, regressing to that of an infant. He was forbidden to leave his home and taught the most basic things like how to walk, to talk. They even needed to teach him to remember his parents' faces. There was barely any space for him to learn anything else. And like manners, those are developed by interacting with others. And sadly, the only ones near his age to interact with were Natalia and Guy. Van during these years was his swordmaster, and we can assume that some of the fondness Luke has was from these times of training. Going back to the moment in the ship to Macedonia where Van tells Luke that his powers are special and can make him a hero does give Luke some validation. But this is not what he needs. Van makes these promises of escaping to death, freeing Luke from being a weapon, or being a hero. These are all made to placate him and doesn't improve Luke at all. He learns nothing from it. What this does is feed Luke's ego, and his appointment as ambassador doesn't help at all. The other bad thing about Van's grooming, yes, it is grooming, for what, you'll know later on, is that it makes Luke dismiss all of the criticism he's receiving from anyone, pushing away the people who actually do care about him. It feels like I'm spoiling things that's going to happen later on, but hey, we're close to Akzeriuth. Finally, reaching Akzeriuth, we find it shrouded in miasma, the citizens falling sick from inhaling it. Luke is once again chastised for saying terribly insensitive things. Guy tries to cheer Luke up from the previous events, but Luke gives another tirade about him being the ambassador and it's not being his job to help injured people in Akzeriuth. Guy is angered by this and tells Luke to think about what he just said. Oh no, what's this named NPC child doing here? Please go home. Oh god, I hope nothing bad happens to him. Hearing there are people stuck in the mines.
Look, Green Sergeant Grits!
No, that's not your name. Namco Bandai, please, if ever this is the next remaster, please do not rename this man. God, Jesus Christ. Hi, man. Informs Tyr about a mission given to her by Mose and leaves with "Hi, man" to report to the Vanguard unit that was accompanying Van in the decoy ship. Because of this sudden development in her mission, we have to go into the mines and save the workers without Tyr. Luckily, there really isn't anything super special in the mines, it's just a very short dungeon. The miasma has already spread within the mines, and with more aggressive monsters, the workers trapped in the mine are unable to leave due to injury and sickness due to the miasma. Sapped of their strength, they are left to wait for aid. Upon reaching the workers, everyone disperses to aid them. Meanwhile, Ash screams into Luke's head, warning him to not search further into the mine. Luke, eager to meet Van, dismisses him. A skit with Luke and Ion shows us that Luke is still very fixated on finding Van. The earlier scoldings from Dio Pass still lingers within him, thinking Van will treat him better, saying he'll know what to do. Ion reminds him that the injured workers need help and that he is the ambassador and he needs to act independently. But unfortunately, Luke dismisses him. Ash warns Luke again to not come closer to Van, and he dismisses him again. Van tricks Ion into opening the gate to the Sephiroth. Ash warns Luke again, telling him that he'll destroy Akzeriuth. Luke ignores him again. Ion tells Luke to wait for everyone before doing anything. Luke exclaims that Van knows what to do and they can save Akzeriuth. You know, it's funny. You see, in the skit translation, Luke says, "Wait and see." What he actually says in the skit is, "If you follow Master, you'll understand," showing Luke completely dependent on Van's approval and decisions. Van instructs Luke to use the control panel on the passage ring to neutralize the miasma in Akzeriuth. Ion questions this. Luke brags. Meanwhile, Tyr arrives with Ash to join the others, warning about Van's ultimate plan. Van triggers a code. Foolish replica Luke. A code that would overload Luke's hyperresonance, the code word a blatant declaration of his disrespect to Luke. Van discarding Luke after turning him into a bomb. He escapes, taking Ash along with his exit. Tyr using phonic arts to save everyone near them from the fall, but eventually... Akzeriuth is destroyed, along with the child who came to visit his father, sinking into the bottomless sea of mud and poison. The party lucks out in finding the turtles that trapped with them. Tyr suggests they go to a place within the Qliphoth called Yulia City. Tyr explains the history of the Qliphoth and the land where they were, in here called the Outer Lands. The Outer Lands being suggested by Yulia, a religious figure, as a way to escape the miasma that was spread throughout the Qliphoth. The Outer Lands being supported by the Sephiroths, light-like pillars that are holding the lands above, one of which Luke destroyed at Van's behest. Luke, still confused, can't accept the fact that he caused this tragedy, and he lashes out on everyone. He blames Van. He blames everyone for being unable to stop him. Everyone leaves in disappointment and disgust, except for one, Mew, the only one who does understand, being the one who accidentally burned the Ligers' forest, making them move into their own forest. Arriving in Yulia City, everyone heads to the mayor's office, except for Luke, who's still apprehensive of his treatment. Ash arrives. Amused, Luke is still calling Van Master after what he did to him. Luke's tirade of not taking responsibility infuriates Ash, finally revealing to Luke,
That's right! You're a second-rate copy of me! A mere replica! You're lying! It's not true! It's not true!
They clash. Depending on your performance, you can either win or lose, but Luke's consciousness will still fade afterwards. And I think this is a good time to stop. This is a very long game, and yes, there are 2 more videos after this. But I suggest that you seek a way to play this game. If a remake or remaster is announced, wait for that. Find an old PS2 copy, emulate, just find a way to play this game. This is one of the many twists that this game offers, and it is absolutely worth your time. I assure you, you will love this main cast and its story. But for now, do YouTube things, like, subscribe. Thank you for watching.